Qualcomm's strategic play with Arduino acquisition amidst geopolitical storms. In a bold move to bolster its position in the rapidly evolving Internet of Things, IoT and edge computing landscape, Qualcomm Incorporated, NASDAQ QCOM, announced on October 7th its agreement to acquire Arduino, the iconic Italian open-source hardware and software company. This acquisition, while strategically promising, comes at a time when Qualcomm is navigating turbulent waters due to regulatory scrutiny in China over a separate deal. Let's unpack the implications of the Arduino acquisition, contextualize Qualcomm's broader strategy, and analyze the geopolitical headwinds impacting its market standing. The Arduino acquisition, a developer-centric power move. Qualcomm's acquisition of Arduino is a calculated step to deepen its penetration into the developer community and expand its edge technology portfolio. Arduino, known for its accessible and affordable hardware and software tools, has cultivated a massive global community of makers, hobbyists, and professionals. By integrating Arduino's offerings with Qualcomm's cutting-edge processing, graphics, computer vision, and AI capabilities, the company aims to create a seamless full-stack edge platform that spans hardware, software, and cloud services. This isn't a standalone move. Qualcomm has been on an acquisition spree, recently integrating Edge Impulse and Foundries.io into its ecosystem. These acquisitions signal a clear vision to democratize access to advanced AI and computing technologies for developers worldwide. For Qualcomm, a semiconductor giant with expertise in wireless technology, processors, and connectivity, tapping into Arduino's community-driven model could unlock new growth avenues in industrial IoT, automotive, and embedded systems. The synergy here is evident. Arduino's ease of use paired with Qualcomm's high-performance tech could lower barriers for innovation across diverse industries. Historically, Qualcomm has thrived by staying ahead of the curve in mobile and wireless technologies. Its dominance in smartphone chipsets, for instance, fueled massive growth in the early 2000s as mobile adoption soared globally. Now, with the IoT market projected to reach $1.1 trillion by 2026, according to Fortune Business Insights, Qualcomm is positioning itself as a leader in this next frontier. The Arduino deal isn't just about hardware. It's about capturing the creative energy of millions of developers who could build the next big thing on Qualcomm's platform. Geopolitical headwinds, the auto talks misstep. While the Arduino acquisition paints a rosy picture of innovation, Qualcomm's simultaneous entanglement with Chinese regulators over its acquisition of Autotalks, an Israeli semiconductor company specializing in vehicle-to-everything, V2X technology, casts a shadow. In June 2025, Qualcomm completed the Autotalks deal, valued between $300 million and $500 million, despite failing to secure approval from China's State Administration for Market Regulation. This gun-jumping move triggered a sharp response from Beijing, alongside a 5% drop in Qualcomm's stock price, wiping out over $7 billion in market value. This isn't Qualcomm's first run-in with Chinese authorities. In 2015, the company paid a staggering $975 million to settle an antitrust case in China, a market that accounted for 46% of its $38.96 billion revenue in fiscal year 2024. With China contributing $16.7 billion to Qualcomm's top line last year, the stakes couldn't be higher. The Autotalks investigation isn't just about a fine, potentially up to 5 million yuan, $700,000, but about the broader implications. Delays in licensing, exclusion from industry standards, and strained relationships with Chinese clients could jeopardize Qualcomm's foothold in a market poised to dominate V2X adoption by 2030. The timing couldn't be worse. U.S.-China trade tensions are escalating, with renewed threats of tariffs and diplomatic friction under the Trump administration. Beijing's scrutiny of Qualcomm, alongside other U.S. tech giants like NVIDIA, signals a broader push to assert regulatory control over foreign firms in critical sectors like AI, semiconductors, and automotive tech. For Qualcomm, this isn't merely a transactional hiccup. It's a geopolitical flashpoint that could reshape its growth trajectory in one of the world's largest tech markets, sector-specific impacts, and global context. The dual narrative of Qualcomm's Arduino acquisition and Autotalks fallout highlights the contrasting forces shaping the semiconductor industry. On one hand, the IoT and edge computing sectors are exploding, driven by demand for smart devices, industrial automation, and connected vehicles. Qualcomm's strategic acquisitions align perfectly with this trend, positioning it to capture value in a market where software-hardware integration is becoming paramount. On the other hand, the semiconductor industry is increasingly a battleground for geopolitical dominance. The U.S.-China tech rivalry, intensified by export controls and tariffs, has turned every cross-border deal into a potential landmine. Qualcomm's reliance on China for nearly half its revenue makes it uniquely vulnerable. Historically, the semiconductor sector has weathered such storms. Think of the U.S. export bans on Huawei in 2019, which reshaped supply chains. But the current environment feels more volatile, with national security and economic sovereignty taking center stage. Globally, this saga underscores a critical shift. No acquisition, however small, is immune to geopolitical scrutiny. For investors, this means heightened risk in semiconductor stocks tied to China, even as the sector's long-term growth outlook remains robust. Qualcomm's predicament could serve as a cautionary tale for peers like Intel or AMD, who must navigate similar regulatory landscapes. Investment and policy implications. For investors, Qualcomm presents a mixed bag. The Arduino acquisition is a long-term positive, enhancing its competitive moat in IoT and edge computing. However, the China-related risks cannot be ignored. With 46% of revenue tied to a market now flexing its regulatory muscle, Qualcomm's near-term volatility is likely to persist. Investors should weigh the stock's current valuation, down 5% post-Autotalks news, against its historical resilience and innovation track record. A diversified portfolio with exposure to other AI and semiconductor plays might mitigate some of the China-specific downside. From a policy perspective, the U.S. government must balance its push for tech dominance with the realities of global supply chains. Supporting domestic semiconductor production via initiatives like the CHIPS Act is crucial, but alienating key markets like China could backfire for companies like Qualcomm. Policymakers might consider diplomatic channels to de-escalate trade tensions, ensuring American firms aren't caught in the crossfire of regulatory retaliation. Near-term catalysts to watch. Several catalysts could shape Qualcomm's trajectory in the coming months. First, the resolution of the Autotalks investigation will be pivotal. Will China impose a symbolic fine or escalate with licensing delays? Second, updates on the Arduino integration, including potential product launches or developer adoption metrics, could boost investor confidence. Finally, broader U.S.-China trade developments, including tariff announcements or diplomatic talks, will influence market sentiment toward Qualcomm and its peers. Conclusion: navigating innovation and risk. Qualcomm's acquisition of Arduino is a visionary step, reinforcing its leadership in edge technology and IoT. Yet the Autotalks misstep serves as a stark reminder of the geopolitical tightrope tech giants must walk. For investors, the story is one of cautious optimism. Qualcomm's fundamentals remain strong, but external risks loom large. As the semiconductor landscape evolves, staying attuned to regulatory shifts and strategic execution will be key. In a world where tech and politics are increasingly intertwined, Qualcomm's journey offers both a blueprint for innovation and a warning of the perils ahead.